Hey, what's up everyone? Lucas here. This is a quick video demonstration of UberGui, which is a custom parameters driven utility that's going to be available on the Chop 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 marketplace here soon. And this is just a quick walkthrough video to show you how it works on the front end and just really quickly how to implement it on the back end as well. There'll be more detailed documentation that comes with this asset, so be on the lookout for that if you want more details, or shoot me an email and I'll be happy to help there. Alright, so the way this works and what this is designed to help you with is to create a UI quickly and dynamically based on a set of custom parameters. So as you can see right here, I've got a set of objects in a mock 3D scene, and as I click on them, you see a few things change over here, primarily the values, but then there's also different parameters on a few of these objects. Like I have a few menus on this M&M shaped object here, and my light obviously has some different objects as well. So if you had custom parameters floating right here, you would actually be able to see all these same values. So I'm actually going to show you real quick so you have a one-to-one comparison of how this looks and how this works. Here's my lights. So we have a general tab and a light tab, and so this is actually one-to-one reflected here, except instead of tabs or pages, we have one long column layout of all of our pages. And the way that we decide what pages get shown is A, they're custom parameters, and B, they have to be in all caps. Those are the two parameters or the two constraints that's used to filter down your page list. This is really easy to change, and I'll explain how in the documentation later. But it's a bit in the Python code. If you're familiar or comfortable with that stuff, that you're able to jump in here and change the way it's parsed. So, anyways, I'm going to move this off to the side. I'm going to bring this back here in just a moment. So we have fields for each of these different parameters. We have scale, rotate, translate. So if I type in a number here, obviously it's going to move. But typing in numbers is somewhat cumbersome, as you may know or have experienced. So there's two other ways to modify values in most of these fields as well. The first one is to right-click, and you can now treat it as a slider. This is pretty nice, but it's not always very granular, but the other option you have in addition to that is scrolling. If you have a mouse wheel, which most of us do, you can actually just scroll in any of these fields and it will just adjust the value over 1 pixel of slider value. And so the way it knows how much to adjust the value is actually based on your min and max and clamp values that are set inside your custom parameters. So all that stuff is very important to building a UI that functions the way you want and is constrained the way you want. So, and the way this really comes in handy is for, the reason I had this as a test scene was so you can see just how quickly and easily you can set things up. I have this light, right? So if I wanted to adjust, say, the cone angle, I could just get in here and really dial that in. I could say I want my cube to be a little bit lower, maybe closer to the camera. Then I can go over here and say, let's soften the edges and let's make this red. So I know I want to type this in, but what if I want to bring back green just a little bit to get that closer to an orange? So very useful, very quick to adjust things, and on top of that, you can also make this wider or narrower based on your preferences. So lots of configurable options. Let me show you one more thing about this light 2 I have here. As I adjust these, you're going to see that the values change in the custom parameters. However, if I change this custom parameter, it will also reflect here, which is a really important feature of this UI. It's not one directional, it's actually bidirectional. So you can change it from another source programmatically and it will update here, or you can change it in the UI and it will update there. So that's very nice. One last thing to show you here at the front end, if I shift select two objects, I can actually move them in tandem if they have the same custom parameters. So this is really useful for something like a scene selection system where you have lots of objects but you want to adjust multiple ones. If you go up a level here, this is, by the way, this is our sample scene. I won't spend any time in here, but really just have a render pick that writes out your selections to a table, and then we send this out. Okay, let me show you the styling options that we have. So for the UI, let's just select something with a lot of parameters. We've got this light. In our asset page, our styles page of our asset here, our UberGui custom parameters, we have a bunch of different options that you can see here. They're pretty self-explanatory, but I'll just show you a few so you get a general idea of how they work. You can change the slider color. You can change the font size. You can also change the spacing between pages and sections. Sections, by the way, are these little lines that you can create in custom parameters, so even that's taken into account. You can change the font. This will basically show you all the fonts that you have in Touch Designer. And you can also change the colors for a wide variety of things, and also the states as you click and move your mouse around the UI. So obviously I'm not going for anything that looks good here. I'm just showing you that you can choose lots of different colors. You can also do some kind of like inverted scheme if you wanted to, like that. Doesn't look all that great, but you could. So lots of different options for the styling. And when you're done or you want to reset, you can just hit reset style under setup and you're back to normal. So, okay, last thing I want to just touch on in this video is how simple it is to get this integrated into your own scene. That might be a concern that some of you have. Okay, I lied. That's actually the last of two things I'm going to tell you about. But the way you integrate this into your scene is quite simple. Under control, you have two parameters. You have a source OP parameter, which is where you specify an operator with custom parameters, and those parameters will drive what you see in your interface. So it's the from. And then you have the to, which is essentially a list of operators that you want to send the new values to. So this is best explained by a quick demonstration with the viewer here. So if I select a different object, you can see this change. And if I shift select a couple objects, you'll see that the last selected object goes to source OP, and then a space separated list of the full paths to all my operators goes to destination. And as long as you have auto load toggled on, that's pretty much all you have to do. So to show you a bit about how I set that up, I just have a dat execute for both of my fields, or both of my paths or custom parameters, and those just get updated. If I want to lock my selection to a single object, all I have to do is select it, turn auto load off, and I can select whatever I want. I can change my custom parameters, but if I go in here and adjust things, I'll still be adjusting the parameters for my lights. So that's how you lock your parameters to a specific object if you'd like. Last thing I want to show you about, was actually at the very top level of the network here. We have two different flavors of UberGui. We have the one I just showed you, which is the statically generated one, and we also have a dynamically generated version of UberGui as well. So the two basic pros and cons between these is this. If you're building a UI for one specific object, like say for this light, and it's never going to change, and it's going to be pretty much just this one object forever, then you want to probably go with dynamic, because you're going to select this object, and it's going to generate the GUI. Then you can go in here and you can turn this back off, and you're going to have this is going to be a UI. It's going to be forever locked to that one object. It's going to be very, very light. Because the dynamic version doesn't generate more information than it needs. It only generates what it needs based on what you have selected. And that's very efficient, but it's slow to generate. So that's the trade-off. It's efficient, it's lightweight, but it's slow to generate. And as you can see here, I'm able to resize this column very quickly, relatively speaking. Now down here, which is the one I've been showing you for this demo, when you select objects, it updates very quickly. I have the update option turned off. Let me turn that back on. But as you can see, as I click around here, it updates very quickly. But the downside is that you have to generate all of your information up front. So if I have a scene like this, I know my light is the most complex object there is. So the custom parameters is about 10 of them. So over here under setup, I went ahead and typed in 15. I said, okay, let's just give myself some extra room to work with. So I know I'm going to have no more than 15 elements at any given time in my my pool of objects is going to go into here. So I'll hit initialize. It's going to take a little bit to do its work, and once it's done, we've created 15 potential UIs, and each UI has every potential custom parameter elements inside of it. So it's a lot heavier. However, once it's generated, it's a little bit faster to switch. So depending on what you want to do, you may want the static version or you may want the dynamic version. Ironically, the use case is kind of opposite of the name. For dynamic, you're actually going to be using this with a static object, probably. With a static generated UI, you're actually going to be using this with your constantly changing interface for multiple objects. So that's about it. I'm going to end the video there. There's plenty of documentation here, but there'll be one official PDF you'll want to take a look at for more of an itemized list of features, how to use them, step-by-step process, etc., etc. That's going to be it. So thanks for watching. Bye.